You are about to shock so many people because you focused on the one thing that oftentimes people skip over, and that is identity. When we are desiring something, we want to set a goal, we want to have more money in our bank account, a healthier relationship, a home, a career, whatever it is that we are calling a new job, right? What happens is we step into the doing, the action. I have to take action so that I can have the thing. And then what happens is that when things don't work out, when you don't get the outcome, you can start feeling frustrated, you could start feeling anxious, right? And the reason is because you did not focus on the identity. Who is it that you want to be as you are in the journey of doing the things that you want to do and having the things you want to have? I got really clear on how do I want to show up before I take action on a big goal, getting a new apartment, right? Being in a healthy relationship. And that person was someone who was rooted in her relationship with God, someone who valued quality time, someone who was consistent, who kept her promises, who lived with integrity, who had self-respect, who set boundaries for herself, who spoke up. Here's the thing, your identity runs your decisions, your behaviors, your standards. And so when you're clear on your identity, who it is that you want to be, the action is more intentional. And when the action is more intentional, the having becomes so much more rooted in, this is exactly what I prayed for. This is exactly what I meant to have. And being ready to receive, but also when the outcome doesn't happen, you're still rooted in gratitude, because your identity isn't about the thing that you did or the thing that you have, but it's about who you are, your values, your character, right? The way you respond to things. In 2025, I was able to double my email list, launch digital products that I had told myself one day I would launch, and I never did. Literally 6 years, and within months, I launched 2 programs. I was able to go from starting at 0 on Threads to building an audience of over 600 because I was rooted in my identity. I didn't care, oh, I have to prove my worth online. I was no longer thinking, oh, I don't sound like the other coaches. You know, I'm definitely more chill, drinking my tea and knows her stuff. It doesn't need to prove it. I know that when I lead a one-on-one client or when I lead a group coaching program that I create transformations, and I don't need to prove that. And once I stopped trying to prove and do all the things that other coaches were doing, other people in the online spaces were doing, and I focused on, okay, who is Karla? Things just worked out. Things are working out for me. And being rooted in that identity of things are working out for me, because your identity is so in its confident energy, things will work out for you. My business coach always says Delulu is the Salulu. And I'm like, yeah, it is. I'm delusional and that everything's going to work out for me. You have to get rid of your old identity. Let your old self die. A little bit dramatic. Hi, I'm Karla. She can't come to the phone right now. What's that Taylor Swift line? I'm Karla. I can't come to the phone right now because she's dead. Whatever. Again, 2021, I had to let old versions of myself die because I was comparing myself to 20-year-old Karla. I was in my 30s. Like, I did not need to hold on to 20-year-old Karla, because 20-year-old Karla she got me here, but she's not going to get me to where I want to be. Start observing your thought patterns, the way you communicate about yourself, about the world, about others. And what I mean by that is, how many times have you desired like to have more money, but then you're like, oh, well, it's going to be hard for me because I didn't get it handed easily. I don't come from privilege. Like, I'm not a trust fund baby, so it's going to be harder for me, right? When you say those things, it's like, okay, well, you don't believe that it's possible for you because you're saying these things, right? So instead of just saying them, delete, and say, I can have the money that I desire. I can have the relationship that I desire. I can have the friendships that I desire. The reason it's so important to catch your thoughts and your beliefs about yourself is because the words I am, whatever comes after that, is so powerful. Start noticing what comes up after I am, and start replacing it with what you value. And what do you believe about the world? If the fears were out of the way, if the doubt was out of the way, if the self-criticism was out of the way, and you could have anything you desire, what would come after the I am. I remember when I first started dating my husband, I'd always like say a joke to him and then be like, I'm just kidding, I'm so dumb. And he just like was like, no, you're not dumb. Stop saying that. Say you're silly or you're being playful, but don't say you're dumb. And when I realized that, it was like, instead of me like having to deal with rejection because somebody didn't understand my joke or they thought it was dumb, like right before somebody rejected me, I was just going to reject myself and be like, oh, I'm just dumb. And I noticed that this I am dumb, right? Delete, came from me actually believing that subconsciously. I was so afraid of people thinking that I was dumb that I didn't show up on YouTube for years. I didn't speak for years. I didn't share about my wisdom through my experiences and coaching and understanding the subconscious mind for years because I was like, I don't want to sound dumb. What if I don't sound like this coach and who's been doing this for years and I just sound dumb? Like they could just go learn from her. I don't want to sound dumb, right? And it was holding me back for so many years unconsciously. I didn't know I was dealing with it. Didn't realize that I was like saying those words to be playful, to be silly, to be likable. So I encourage you that for the next 24 hours, start observing your thoughts about yourself, about the world, about what's possible for you. Notice the thoughts, just observe them, and then notice what comes out of your mouth. And this isn't to shame you or to try to fix yourself, but just notice these things so that they don't become a habit. So they don't become a habit of you saying, I am, insert whatever limiting belief you are speaking onto yourself. And here's what you're gonna start noticing. You're gonna be like, okay, I caught my beliefs before they continued. What if, right? What if I fail? What if I can't do this? What if I give up? What if I'm not good enough? What if people reject me, right? You caught them and you deleted them. This is where honesty is gonna come in because here's the thing. When you see someone and you judge them, right? Oftentimes it's a trigger. It's triggering something maybe that you don't want in your life or something that you do desire. So ask yourself, why am I judging that person? Why did that trigger me? And what am I trying to protect myself from? So once you get rooted on your identity, this is where you start really getting clear on what is it that you want. It's like that notebook scene. What do you want? Oftentimes we're so focused on the I do not want this situation. And so we limit ourselves because of our fears. What if it doesn't happen, right? What if I fail? This is an exercise that I do with my clients when I'm helping them like uncover their values. And I ask them like, when did you feel most happy? Like remember a time when you felt unwavering happiness, right? And they're jumping on their timeline and they're imagining that event where they felt totally happy or totally calm or totally at peace or totally free. So whatever feeling you want, that is your why, right? Deciding on what is it that you want and why do you want that? What feeling do you want to have? Maybe it's more purpose, more fulfillment, more confidence, right? Once you get rooted on the identity and you start embodying the woman that you want to be because you know exactly what feeling you desire, that's when you start taking action. And it comes from a place of, I know that I'm capable of having that thing that I want, that feeling that I want, the feeling of confidence, right? And taking those action steps to get you to move forward. When it comes to a habit that you want to be consistent in, I call this my daily yes. Like for so long, I wanted to be someone who like doesn't get on her phone like right away in the morning, right? Like in order to do that, I had to ask myself why. Well, I wanted to wake up at peace. I didn't want to wake up with notifications and news and chaos and messages and feeling like I have to answer to so many people. Instead, I wanted to have that peace. Like that was my why. I wanted to start off my day right? And so I started taking action by telling myself the first thing in the morning, I just get up, wash my face, brush my teeth, I don't get on my phone. So that daily action is now just a part of my everyday life. So now that you know that it's so important to be in the being, the identity, now you can move towards action. And in order to move towards action, ask yourself, how does the person that does the thing I want to do, how does she speak to herself? What does she tolerate? What are her standards? How quickly do I decide? Because that builds confidence when you're not spiraling in indecision. And what have I stopped explaining? I actually have a story about this because I used to like over explain so many things, like in order to prove my character, my values, who I am. Not too long ago, someone had told me, like, you know, Karla, I just feel like you think that you're less than because you're staying home with your son. And I just looked at her and said, I know who I am. I don't believe that I'm less than, right? And that trigger was a clue. It was an invitation to go deeper with myself. And I realized that I had no longer needed to explain myself. Old version of me would have just like gone into the conversation and be like, I don't believe, oh no, I'm not this, and this is da 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 da, right? Explaining like that I'm a present mother and that I love pouring into my family and my son and my husband, and I also love being creative, and the reason that I want to build a brand is because of this. I would have completely tried to get this person to see me, but I no longer had to do that. And that moment was my invitation to change, to step into the identity of the woman who knows who she is. For the next 90 days, start choosing who you want to be, and everything else will follow. So just get clear. Who is this person? Mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually? How does she react when a trigger shows up? When someone says who she is? When someone declares her identity for her, right? How do you react? How do you stay rooted in your self-concept? Next time you set a goal, remember, first start with identity, then take intentional action. And by doing that, you will become the person who receives what she has with such gratitude and without being attached to the outcome. And when you're in a place where identity is everything, no external validation will matter.